All right, guys, redemption has occurred for me and Chappelle, Dave Chappelle. When I saw him on SNL, I was liking what he was doing. He's kind of playing both sides in different ways, but this time in the Unstoppable, you know what? They didn't put the last word in there. um, I was like, you have redeemed yourself, Mr. Dave Chappelle. In the previous special, I felt like he was on his soapbox a lot. He was preaching. I've noticed he was doing that in the past, even before that. And it was fine, but at some point he lost me. And it became more like daddy teaching us lessons and preaching to us. And he kind of gave us a little bit of that at the end, but I was feeling it this time. I really like this special. And for me, it was like watching a pitch meeting for the Chappelle show. I love that show in its heyday. I remember he had walked away from the show. They offered him a lot of money, but he just walked away. And I don't know if I know the whole story on that. Is I'd like to know more about the whole story on that. I feel like that was never fully revealed. Where's his book? Where's his special on that? Guys, let me know if he dropped one. But one of the first things he talks about is owning a white town. And it just made me think of something that he would have on Chappelle's show, a black man owning an all-white town. The different dynamics there, the opposite of gentrification. It was just a funny thought to think about, and it made me feel like I was watching, or he was setting me up to watch this sketch show. I mean, I wouldn't mind if he would jump the clip sometimes in some of his future specials. So then he talks about the cocaine girls versus the weed girls. I'm recapping, but I'm pulling out some moments that I thought were some of the best moments for me. So it is some spoilers. So he said coke girls are cuter, weed girls aren't so cute. I'm like, can you elaborate more on the coke girls? Because he talked bad about the weed girls. So it's like, can you do a little more elaboration? I think he missed that point. And then he said he's been to all the parties and tried a lot of, and done all the things. And he didn't say he did all the things. He didn't say he was Diddy. But we're going to get to the Diddy part. The whole Hamas Israel conflict kind of came up when it came to him talking about performing in Saudi Arabia for the Saudis, and basically they paid him good and he could kind of say whatever he wanted there. He talks about the whole Falcon situation, the Falcon misdemeanor, I'll call it that. And I won't say the whole sketch, but he said a certain thing popped out of someone, and he really missed the point when he missed that mark, because he could have made some sound effects. He could have did like boing or something. I just thought that would have made it a little bit funnier if he would have done something like that. But the Falcon misdemeanor, that was a crazy story. And then he has receipts at the end of the special that a lot of people in Saudi Arabia, the people that have pets and have the money, they have falcons as their pets. So, he had a bit of receipts on that. I don't know if that whole setup was completely true, but it was a crazy story, and I could still see it being a sketch on the Chappelle show. All right. He kind of talked about Trump and Elon, and he said money is free speech. When he said that, or money gets free speech, something like that, I was like, well, that is kind of deep, because he was saying that you could pay if you have the money, you can basically say whatever you want to say. And that's not how free speech is supposed to work. We're all supposed to be able to have free speech, but if you have the money, you can say and do whatever you want. And we've seen that, guys. We're seeing that now. He speaks on Diddy some, but let's not get to that part quite yet. He gets into Charlie Kirk versus Martin Luther King. He was saying, Charlie was more of an influencer. Then he was like, what if MLK was an influencer? And he kind of does a Martin Luther King voice and, plays him as an influencer versus what he was to our country, and still has a presence in our country. So Charlie Kirk versus Martin Luther King, definitely, I agreed on his stance on that. He pulled out a lot of the great pop culture moments. And they said this was kind of like an impromptu special. He picked the perfect timing to do this special as well, with all the things going on. I think he didn't want to wait too late on this Charlie Kirk thing. He actually let us know Diddy saved his life at a Hollywood Bowl attack. Diddy, I remember when he was attacked on stage, but I'm not sure if that was the same attack, but he said it was one at the Hollywood Bowl that Diddy saved him. And he said he doesn't know why his bodyguards, so-called, had the slippery shoes on. He's like, well, maybe now I can see, because Diddy could have wasted some baby oil. We know how much Diddy loves the baby oil. And it's funny because we'll talk about that a little bit later, but when I saw the Diddy doc, I saw parts of it. He had so much baby oil in the hotel. This is after they confiscated his house. Not confiscated, but, had him leave his house and all of that. He brought a lot of baby oil with him in that hotel. Sir, what are you going to do with all this baby oil? We don't want to know. He has some type of addiction to baby oil. Maybe among other things. Anyway, so he's kind of has a little love for Diddy because he had his back during that time. He let us know that he's been to Puff's house, and he made some funny jokes about things, like things in hindsight he now realizes, could have been something was there, but he didn't get to see the brunt of that. He said he does have sympathy for Cassie, but he did make some jokes at her expense a bit, but he has sympathy for her. He said he was going to give us 2 closings, one for DC and one for Saudi Arabia. He went from smoking to now drinking on stage. He also, in a way, he's going to tie this up. He's going to, in a way, advocate for Diddy on some level. And he's talking about conspiracies. If you know it's true, if you know it's a conspiracy, if you don't know, don't act like you know the specific thing. You can believe a conspiracy is there without pinpointing what it is. Just say you don't know. Just say it's a conspiracy you don't know, but it's something fishy, right? Don't act like you know all the details of the story, right? Well, it's funny how they're juxtaposing this whole 50 Cent helped put this out against Diddy, and now they're juxtaposing our friend Dave Chappelle kind of championing Diddy, not 100%. He says he knows he did some messed up stuff, but he equates it to some things that have happened to powerful men of color in the past. So again, he went from smoking to now drinking on stage. What's in the cup? He says it's the Bill Cosby cocktail mix. So he doesn't have long to close this out. He said, it's conspiracies, it's madness going on in our world. And we can all agree with that. Then he talks about Jack Johnson, 1910. The first black heavyweight champion. He tells the whole story of the Great White Hope, which I never knew the whole story. And he was like, this is the part where he's giving me historical lessons, especially those young people that don't know the story of the Great White Hope. And I believe the Wayans brothers may have done a movie about that. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Stevie Wonder's ends up in this story. It's like a whole yarn or thread that comes together so well, the way that he tells this story. Stevie Wonder's done some amazing things. He's, of course, connected to the MLK song and MLK Day. He talks about the Great White Hope and how that's connected to the Mann Act, the same act that Diddy was charged on. And a quote, he said, he did everything, he risked everything for his pleasure. That quote kind of stood out to me as well. I risked everything for my pleasure. 1910, that was a time, yeah, the racism, is high now, but back then it was a lot more open than it is now, but it's opening more now as well. But um he starts talking about how they had the police out in the hip hop people, and even people like him who was around in the culture that was out doing stand up. They had like people out looking at Diddy and looking at Notorious B.I.G. So he's kind of letting us know it's been over 30 years where they've kind of had it out for Diddy, and now they're finally able to get him, because he's a powerful black man at the end of the day. May have done some messed up things, but that's what it is. He talks about T.I. and the Water Boys in Atlanta. The kids that bring you that cold water. Remember when kids started bringing you cold water in the summertime? Well, they would not bring it to you, but they'd be out on the highway edges and selling the cold water. I remember when that started, didn't know that there was some group called the Water Boys in Atlanta that kind of started this thing, and I guess it moved across the country. Chappelle is only 52. I thought he was older than that. But he's acts like my grandpa. He's giving grandpa energy, saying he's old, but I'm into it. He also goes into the whole story of Nipsey Hussle and how Nipsey was very similar to Tupac, and he actually connected with Nipsey. And for some people, Charlie Kirk was their Nipsey Hussle. The whole Dr. Sebi thing, like he really deep dived into a lot of these different conspiracies. And again, the whole thing is about the unstoppable. He talked about his friend Charlie Burnett, who actually was up for SNL but couldn't read, so Eddie Murphy replaced him. Like, he had so many jewels and gems of historical things in comedy and just in pop culture, entertainment, and hip hop. And I was just like, this was really a great Christmas gift, or for anyone that's watching at this time, because it came out during the holiday season. And he's saying, he's saying whatever he's saying. Chappelle's like, I'm out here saying a lot. I can kind of be targeted as well. But don't Charlie Kirk me, look out for me, guys. I don't want to get Charlie Kirked, which is not the words he used, and hopefully that's not offensive to anyone. But he's saying that could happen to him. He's saying another thing that could happen is that he can be bought out to the point where he can become a sellout and say things he would never say. And he said he needs to come up with the safe word to so you guys will know after that, if I say this and that, don't listen to me anymore. I've been sold out. They've got my mind. They got me. And you had to watch the special to find out what that safe word was, or safe phrase. So at the end, we get the receipts. We get a great closing, which we always kind of get a great closing. He shows all the people he hobnobbed with, Nipsey Hussle. He even shows an old picture, which I thought this was comedy in itself. We have Chappelle there with Diddy, and then the way the picture slides over, we got Marlon there, and I don't know if that was supposed to be insinuation, but it's the way that picture rolled over and we saw Marlon's face. I don't know. I know it's love for them, because I know Chappelle, Eddie, the Wayans, they've all kind of worked together on some level. And he also, at the end, he has a picture with D'Angelo, showing love to D'Angelo. I think he was giving him a hug. And it's probably near the end of his life. So he dedicated this special to D'Angelo. So this was a great special. Some things he pulled out of his hat, Death by Falcon. It was just wild, and it was, to me, like a whole season of Chappelle Show in one stand-up moment. I loved it. He set the table, and we ate well. So like I said, that was a great Christmas gift to all Chappelle fans, to comedy fans, to people of color, to people of the culture, to people that just may be the underdogs, the people that see the different things, the conspiracies going on in our society, all of that. It was a good show. What did you guys think? Thoughts, comments, questions? Email me at cbiztv@yahoo.com. And check us out on our other platforms at cbiztvmedia.com. All the best. I'll talk to you guys next time. Faith, love, and trends. This is Irene. God bless.